in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
This week we hear about a project that aims to expand our bone marrow registry.
It's like a blood donation, but actually you don't donate your blood. The blood goes out from the one arm and comes back to the other arm. It just passes through a machine which actually collects these stem cells, and it takes around 3 to 4 hours. It's not painful at all.
Visit an exhibition that's part of Italian Cuisine Week that details ancient fruits in Italy and Cyprus.
A very important testimonial of nature in Cyprus. I tried from years now to draw the old varieties of grapes and figs in Cyprus.
And talk to an artisanal Italian gelato maker.
The gelato is a special kind of ice cream, and it's made in Italy with a certain rules to make. More than other is made with fresh ingredients and is made fresh every day.
The Karaiskakio Foundation, which was formed in 1996 and is Cyprus' bone marrow registry, is running a campaign. And with us to tell us what's involved from the foundation is a volunteer called Maria Nikolaidis. Maria, let's talk about why you came up with this idea, because it's, in a sense, I think, an outreach programme to try and get more people in Cyprus involved with bone marrow donation.
Yeah, well, the first idea came up with, me and Michelle Karolidis were volunteers of taking swab samples for Karaiskakio for a few years now. And we tried really hard to collect samples going to whatever event, exhibitions, Karaiskakio was invited. Although we did manage to get, not only us, I mean, it's a big volunteer community, and actually the staff of Karaiskakio as well are doing a lot of work. Although we did manage to get, and we have one of the biggest pools in generally internationally, Cyprus has 190,000 registered bone donors, we found out that it's not enough. Because unfortunately in Cyprus we've got at least 32% of the people that actually do not find a match. 4 of every 10 people that actually need a transplant, they find it from their family. The rest of the 6 actually depends on volunteer donors. So it was very key and important to find another way and another method to actually get more samples and actually inform a lot of people of what actually Karaiskakio is doing. And what is the procedure? Because a lot of people are scared of the procedures. So we decided that which community actually is not targeted, it's the business community. And although there is a lot of businesses that support Karaiskakio Foundation in other ways, such as funding them, helping them, supporting them, we thought it was time to get them on our side to be able to give also swabs. So we came up with this actual campaign, which is a corporate campaign, which is called Together from A to Z, trying to get the business sector of Cyprus involved in this good cause Karaiskakio is trying to do. So we decided to register companies with 4 simple steps. The first simple step is that each company that will be registered in the campaign has to decide a letter from their logo that will actually give a very positive meaning. For example, a company gave the letter C for caring. That letter will be replaced on their logo with the Karaiskakio symbol. That will create awareness for the business community and network.
Just a minute, they replace a letter with the Karaiskakio logo, but what do they do with that logo? Do they send it out to people? Or how do you get it?
The logo will be in all their social media. And what will happen in the end, you will all find out at the closing event of the campaign. The second step is that they will choose an employee from their company that will be properly trained to take swab samples, and he will also be the representative of Karaiskakio in their business. The samples can be taken from other employees, from their friends, from their clients, from whatever they want. The whole point is anyway to get more swabs within the pool of Karaiskagio Foundation bank registry. They can set a date, make an event. A lot of companies that actually registered are actually really doing very well, deciding to make events, going to exhibitions, doing internal swabbing, calling their friends, and it's actually working till now. But definitely we need more companies to get the vision going. The fourth step is passing it on. The whole idea of together is that we can all together help all the patients that have got leukemia and all the patients that also have hematological diseases, because a bone marrow transplant is not only for leukemia, but it's for other diseases as well. So pass it on is together, we can pass it on. They can pass it on in their business network, in their friend network.
How long is the project going to go on for? You said earlier that at the end people will find out what's happening about these logos, but how long is it going on for?
It started in September, which is the month of leukemia, and it will finish in February. So the ending of the campaign will be end of February.
And I presume you're hoping that businesses that have already signed up will tell other businesses and so on, and
they're
it will
already doing
grow exponentially.
Yes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the actual procedure of bone marrow transplant, because I know that Cyprus has a very mixed up DNA, which is why we need so many donors, because it's hard to find matches. But do you take donors from surrounding countries, for example? Because there is such a mix-up in the DNA of the average Cypriot that a lot of them have been matched, I think, in some of the studies I've read, with people in Asia Minor, people in the Middle East, people even in Northern Europe.
Well, the Cyprus registry is collaborated together with the international registry. The international registry has 35 million volunteer donors registered. Obviously, Cyprus mixed heritage DNA help us to give a lot as donors. For example, we give a lot to Israel, Greece, Italy, Germany, England, wherever the Cypriots actually moved, or whatever, anyone that passed through our history in Cyprus. And that's one of the reasons that it's quite difficult to find matching donors, though, because our DNA is, as you understand, a bit complicated.
Most people would assume that close family would be perfect matches.
Unfortunately, only 4 out of 10 can actually find from close family, which is quite odd. It should have been something better. In other countries, it's 6 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. It depends of the history of the country.
Right, so let's say I've registered, I'm found to be a match for someone, whether they be in Cyprus or somewhere else, but particularly if they're somewhere else, what's the procedure?
Well, okay, so the first thing is that if you're a match, Karaiskagio will call you and they will inform you. Obviously, you have to understand, because they're volunteers, they can decide whether they want to proceed or not. Even if you're registered, you can change your mind at any point.
And I presume some people do, because a lot of people are a little bit afraid of the whole procedure.
Well, unfortunately, though, they do say, a lot of people say no, but after they get completely informed, then they get relaxed and understand that this procedure is painless. Once you become a matching donor, you come to Karaiskagio and they explain the whole procedure. The whole procedure basically is, first you do a whole health checkup. All the cost of the health checkup will be from Karaiskagio Indrima. And if you're okay to proceed and the whole health checks up okay, then you proceed to the next step. The next step is that there is 2 ways. One of the most common procedures, it's the peripheral one, which basically you get for a few days some injections that will produce more stem cells in your blood. It's a very easy procedure. Basically, once this is done after a few days of the injections, you go to the hospital and it's like a blood donation, but actually you don't donate your blood. The blood goes out from the one arm and comes back to the other arm. It just passes through a machine which actually collects these stem cells, and it takes around 3 to 4 hours. It's not painful at all, and You are surrounded by friends and family. You're not under any sedation. And you go home. That's it. The second procedure basically is, which is not common at all, is that you get under sedation. You go in for 1 hour or 2 hours. The sedation is only for 15-20 minutes. An injection goes through the bone and extracts the bone marrow from the patient.
Now that's what people, I think, still think of as the usual procedure for bone marrow, because that's how it was done for a long time, isn't it?
Yes, that's how it was done.
I think that's when I heard from people who'd done it that you're pretty sore afterwards. So that doesn't happen anymore?
No, it doesn't. Unless it's an extreme situation, and that's the only method. But again, the volunteer donor has the option to say, I'm not going through that, and I don't want to do it.
All right, let's come back to the Together A to Z. You're running it, you said, until February, so I'm sure you'd like to hear from people who think that they could sign up and do this. What should they do?
There is a lot of ways. One way is to send an email to a2z@garaiskagio.org.cy and just say that they're interested, and we'll send the whole package of information for them and the registration form. They could also call us or call Garaiskagio and ask for our phone numbers, and they will directly give them to us and explain the whole procedure. But we've also shared a lot of emails with a lot of organizations that actually have business networks registered with them, and they could get informed from there as well. So it's easy to reach us. Just pick up the phone or send an email, and we will inform them whatever they want.
Have you signed up everybody at the Health Ministry and at other government departments?
Well, we tried. I think it's my next step. I need to get the guts to do it. We have a lot of companies, mainly private, that were interested. We managed to get a governmental department, which we're very proud is the Cyprus Post office, and we're very proud that we manage that. There is a bit of procedure because there is a small donation to register the campaign, which is €350, which will actually cover the cost of the campaign and also contribute to the research for the new established Cancer for Children department we have in Garaiskagio. It's not a big cost, but apparently there is a lot of bureaucracy in giving a small fee, but we definitely would love to have the government behind us. This is my next target that I will try this month.
So if anybody from a government department is listening, they must have petty cash to that amount, I'm sure. We've been talking about the Together A to Z campaign at the Garaiskagio Foundation, that is Cyprus Bone Marrow Registry, and telling us all about it was Maria Nikolaidis.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Earlier this week, an exhibition opened at the Strovolos Cultural Centre. It's the work of the Italian Embassy in Cyprus as part of their Week of Italian Cuisine in the world. And it features watercolours by Veronica Giovanni Lorenzetti, but paired with that, for a couple of days, there was tasting of gelato by ice cream maker Lorenza Bernini. So it was a feast for both the eyes and the mouth. But joining us right now is the artist herself, Veronica Giovanni Lorenzetti. Veronica, you'd studied, I think, in the UK, but you work in Italy, and you've moved on from the early days to concentrate very much on fruits and nature. But tell us about the connection with Cyprus of this exhibition, because I think it's all to do with an Italian visitor to the island a long, long time ago.
Oh yes, a famous visitor, Giovanni Moretti, that visited Cyprus in 1700, second part of the century. And he described very, very well the weather, the earth, the nature of Cyprus in a very nice way, without criticizing, but what he was effectively looking at. Therefore, is a very important testimonial of nature in Cyprus. I tried from years now to draw the old varieties of grapes and figs in Cyprus. So in a certain moment I decided to look what he was thinking and what he was describing about the fruits, the ancient fruits in Cyprus. So there was a first exhibition at the Academy of Georgophili in Florence, and then the ambassador of Italy in Cyprus invited me to bring the exhibition to Cyprus too.
Now, the importance, particularly to an island nation like Cyprus, of those species that have been around for years, they're the ones that survive despite climate changes and different methods of agriculture. What do you find fascinating about those rather than the hybrids that are coming up everywhere?
It's strange that what Moretti wrote about the weather, the climate of Cyprus, it seems to correspond with the difficulties we are passing now. I mean the dry months, the dry years, and the water that comes down in abundance in certain years. But the great thing is the description of how the vines were cultivated and how the wine was produced, because Commanderia still exists, and he was describing it as a wine already old in Cyprus, ancient wine. So this remained. Commanderia is getting always better, but most of all the vineyards and the varieties of grapes he saw that we still find now.
And which we now actually export to some other countries where they like to blend their wine, because other countries with a similar climate,
yes,
these are the grapes that grow well.
Yes, that's true. And he describes also of the French representatives in Cyprus of those days that used to take plants, cuttings rather than plants, and took them to France. So I think we gave a lot of prime material to other countries to create their own wines. And as Moretti said, my people have a lot to learn from this way of making wine in Cyprus.
Right, now you studied this from his point of view, but I think you've also carried out quite extensive research into Italian fruits.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and how you approach that.
I approach that talking about varieties that have special taste and is not easy to find around. But I must say that in Italy, the conservation of old varieties is really a high level. I mean, the countryman knows that the apple or the pear that's selected for his grounds because resistant to a lot of water or dry grounds.
A lot of them are more
best.
resilient to pests as well,
Yes,
aren't they?
yes, of course. Yes, that's the very, very important thing. But maybe they are of small size as pears or apples, and they are not inviting to buy in a supermarket or around.
That surely is changing as people start moving towards organic produce, which isn't perfect.
Yes, it's growing. It's growing. The interest is growing.
Not necessarily looking so good, but the taste is very different.
Yes, this is true, but the centers of agricultural research in Italy, they collect as much as they can going around. Even when I say, I met a tree of peaches, it has that color and is maturing now, October or November, they immediately ask, where is it? They pick up pieces and they multiply it, and this is really a value for a country.
So they're actually making sure that they still have examples of these trees.
Exactly.
And I presume a seed bank as well?
Seed banks, I don't know, maybe of the almonds, because there is infinity of almonds varieties. But if they can, they have the germoplasma. That means living example of the tree. And if a countryman or somebody asks them if they can have cuttings to propagate on their own trees, on their own ground, they give them. They are not selfish in that.
So we're hopeful then that none of these varieties will disappear forever. That's the main thing,
Some
isn't it?
disappear, but the happy situation of rescuing old varieties is very, very important, because it's a secure way to safeguard old varieties. I mean, creating another tree, 2 trees, 10 trees in the collection of the agricultural research centres.
Right, and the work that you've got on show in Cyprus till the beginning of December, how long did it take you to find all these fruits and then go and do the drawings?
Almost 20 years.
So it's half your life's work, probably.
Yes, I was painting the flowers, the flora of Cyprus. And then I realized that this heritage of fruits may disappear. So my idea was to awake the interest of normal people, simple people, that may have an old variety fruit tree in their garden or in their grounds, but most of the trees, we find them on the border of the properties. And that's why they are safe. The same thing in Italy. They are in a rescue situation, but we can find them especially on the border of the properties.
The main thing for all of us is that we now have a
Yes.
record of all these different varieties,
Yes.
and people can come and see them at the Strovolos Cultural Centre through until December the 6th. That is an exhibition entitled The Ancient Fruits in Italy and Cyprus, a watercolours exhibition by Veronica Giovanni Lorenzetti.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
And staying with that watercolours exhibition, there was a treat for visitors at the inauguration and indeed on the following day, because all the way from Italy was artisanal gelato maker Lorenza Bernini, who joins us now. Lorenza, you first of all need to tell us a little bit about the art of making ice cream and gelato. What's the difference?
Well, we can say that gelato is a kind of ice cream. We normally intend ice cream as a general meaning, so we can call a frozen dessert an aerated dessert, but the gelato is a special kind of ice cream, and it's made in Italy with a certain rules to make. More than other is made with fresh ingredients and is made fresh every day, in small quantities, by a person who knows how to do that. That's not an industrial production, of course.
So you can't do gelato on a big scale? But some factories do. What's the difference?
Well, it's artisanal. There is a person or a few person who are working on the production, and it's different from a person to another, from a gelateria to another. You can find different kinds of gelatos, of course.
So tell us about yours. What's special about it? What system do you use?
Well, I try to use all the natural ingredients and the organic ingredients as well, and local products. I try to make my own gelato with all that kind of ingredients.
So you're in Cyprus. Have you used any of the ingredients that
We
have
try
here?
to use ingredients to make a combination between Italy and Cyprus, of course. So with Veronica, we try to find out a good taste for the exhibition. So we decide, for example, to make a gelato using pears and commanderia. That is the typical wine that you can find here. Just to make a good mix, we find out the right flavor that we want to reach, and I'm mixing of culture, of course. And we will present another kind of gelato made with honey, because it's very used in all the area, but in Cyprus, of course, for all kind of sweeteners that you can find.
What's
Or
your
in
favourite
pastry.
flavour for a gelato?
My favorite? That's an interesting question, because I love to make a lot of strange combinations and to build in a certain way flavors. One of my favorite is the one I've made for the birth of my daughter, and it's called Matilde, as my daughter's name. And it is based on a soft cheese, robiola, that we commonly use to make cheesecake in Italy. And it is aromatized with cardamom. And I use also raspberry seeds and ruby chocolate and natural colored chocolate to create a lot of consistencies, textures inside the same flavor of gelato.
How long does it take to make? I mean, people I think who've tried to make ice cream at home have a rough idea. It's got to be churned and so on and so on. But is gelato a more complicated thing or easier?
Well, it's not, because, of course, you have a lab. If you have a lab, you have the right machines and tools that you need. And that's not so complicated. Well, it depends of the kind of the fluid that you are preparing, but from maybe 20 minutes to some hours. It depends, because there are, for example, if you process fruits, that's more or less easy to do, and you can reach to make a flavor in a few minutes, half an hour. And if you have to make more complex preparations, you can waste more time. For
It
example,
sounds like
processing.
you're usually experimenting.
Yes,
You've got
I
some
do
that
that a lot.
you know you rely on, but that you like to add a little bit of this and maybe add a little bit of that and then see what it tastes like.
Yes, that's the most interesting part of the work, because we produce, for example, a few amount of flavors. They are just 18. So I love to change them. For example, we change the fruit that we use during the year, because you have the right
Season.
Yes, the season for that. And furthermore, it's interesting to change the flavors, because you can experiment a lot, and you can also listen to the requests of your customers.
We
Sometimes.
always assume, I think, that ice cream and gelato are desserts in a way. Can you make a savoury gelato?
Yes, of course we can. And we have done a lot of times, for example, with olive oil or using cheeses that are not so sweet and soft. But in general, you can consider the gelato, if it is made with a certain criteria, as a complete food. It has proteins inside, it has fat, of course, but they are in the right percentage that are good for your body. It has sugar inside, but it's not just sugar. It has a small part of sugar, a small part of fat, a part of protein, a lot of water. If you use fresh fruits, for example, you will have also the nutrients that you can find inside the fruit, of course, and so on. Well, every single flavor has different characteristics.
Different
As for
properties.
example, if you use the dried fruit, you could have the fatty acids, and you could have all the good substances that you have inside.
So it's a healthy option. That makes it even tastier. That is Lorenza Bernini, who is an artisanal gelato maker and has been in Cyprus for that exhibition on the ancient fruits in Italy and Cyprus. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.